Mandy and I welcome you back to day 111 of Reading This Bible 365. We're so glad that you've joined us again. We're in the Old Testament today. We're going to do the book of Exodus, chapters 9 to 12. I color verses that I love in Exodus in yellow because Exodus is part of the Torah, or the Pentateuch part of the Bible, which are the first 5 books of the Bible in the Old Testament. There's 187 chapters in the Torah, and Exodus has 40 chapters. Remember last week in Exodus, we just had the first 4 plagues: blood, frogs, gnats, and flies. Now we're moving on to the next plague, which is the plague on livestock. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Go to Pharaoh and say to him, 'This is what the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, says. Let my people go, so that they may worship me. If you refuse to let them go and continue to hold them back, the hand of the Lord will bring a terrible plague on your livestock in the field, on your horses and donkeys and camels, and on your cattle and sheep and goats. But the Lord will make a distinction between the livestock of Israel and that of Egypt, and that no animal belonging to the Israelites will die.' The Lord set a time and said, 'Tomorrow the Lord will do this in the land.' And the next day the Lord did it. All the livestock of the Egyptians died, but not one animal belonging to the Israelites died." I love it. Pharaoh sent men to investigate and found that not even one of the animals of the Israelites had died. Yet his heart was unyielding, and he would not let the people go. Plague number 6, the plague of boils. Then the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "Take handfuls of soot from a furnace and have Moses toss it in the air in the presence of Pharaoh. It will become fine dust over the whole land of Egypt, and festering boils will break out on men and animals throughout the land." So they took soot from a furnace and stood before Pharaoh. And Moses tossed it in the air, and festering boils broke out on men and animals. The magicians could not stand before Moses because of the boils that were on them and all the Egyptians. But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart again, and he would not listen to Moses and Aaron, just as the Lord had said to Moses. Plague number 7, the plague of hail. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Get up early in the morning, confront Pharaoh and say to him, 'This is what the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, says. Let my people go, so that they may worship me. Or this time I will send the full force of my plagues against you and against your officials and your people, so you may know that there is no one like me in all the earth. For by now I could have stretched out my hand and struck you and your people with a plague that would have wiped you off the earth." Over here I have God withheld his full power. Yes, he did. "But I have raised you up for this very purpose, that I might show my power, and that my name might be proclaimed in all the earth. You still set yourself against my people and will not let them go. Therefore, at this time tomorrow, I will send the worst hailstorm that has ever fallen on Egypt from the day it was founded until now. Give an order now to bring your livestock and everything you have in the field to a place of shelter, because the hail will fall on every man and animal that has not been brought in and is still out in the field, and they will die." Those officials of Pharaoh who feared the word of the Lord hurried to bring their slaves and livestock inside, but those who ignored the word of the Lord left their slaves and livestock in the field. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand toward the sky, so that hail will fall all over Egypt, on men and on animals, and on everything growing in the fields." When Moses stretched out his staff toward the sky, the Lord sent thunder and hail and lightning flashed down to the ground. So the Lord rained hail on the land of Egypt. Hail fell and lightning flashed back and forth. It was the worst storm in all the land of Egypt since it has become a nation. Throughout Egypt, hail struck everything in the fields, both men and animals. It beat down everything growing in the fields and stripped every tree. The only place it did not hail was the land of Goshen, where the Israelites were. It's amazing how God can do that. Then Pharaoh summoned Moses and Aaron. "This time I have sinned," he said to them. "The Lord is in the right, and I and my people are in the wrong. Pray to the Lord, for we have had enough thunder and hail. I will let you go. You don't have to stay any longer." I bet he's lying. Moses replied, "When I have gone out of the city, I will spread out my hands in prayer to the Lord. The thunder will stop, and there will be no more hail, so you may know that the earth is the Lord's. But I know that you and your officials still do not fear the Lord." The flax and barley were destroyed, since the barley had headed and the flax was in bloom. The wheat and spelt, however, were not destroyed, because they ripened later. Then Moses left Pharaoh and went out of the city. He spread out his hands toward the Lord. The thunder and the hail stopped, and the rain no longer poured down in the land. When Pharaoh saw that the rain and hail and thunder had stopped, he sinned again. He and his officials hardened their hearts. So Pharaoh's heart was hard, and he would not let the Israelites go, just as the Lord had said through Moses. I have let you live for this purpose, God continued, to show you my power and to make my name known on the whole earth. Christians often quote the gracious promise of Romans 8:28. We know that all things work together for the good of those who love God, who are called according to his purpose. But there's a flip side to that reality. All things can work together for the bad of those who hate God and who resist his purposes. Make no mistake, God is the sovereign king of the universe, and he will accomplish his kingdom purposes. He has given each person the freedom to cooperate with him or to oppose him. Would Pharaoh submit to God, or would he be run over by God's sovereignty tires? God will be glorified through us or in spite of us. If you cooperate with the sovereignty of God, it does not mean you won't experience hardship and suffering. Rather, it means you can be assured that the good, bad, and ugly of your life will be put into God's blender, ultimately bringing you to the place where he wants you to be. If, by contrast, you rebel against the all-powerful God, understand that you have not escaped his sovereignty. God will still do exactly what he wants. You, however, will be on the wrong side of his sovereignty and will remove yourself from the covering of his blessing. Those were some pretty amazing plagues, weren't they? I mean, I can't imagine everything just being stripped bare by hail. I mean, we've had some hailstorms here. I live in St. Louis, Missouri, but this was a very intense storm, and all the other plagues too, the boils on all their bodies. I mean, every time he thinks, okay, I'm going to give in this time, and then he hardens his heart again. I mean, it's crazy. So first of all, I hope you never have a hardened heart like that. But the second point, I really like what they're saying, that all the things are in God's hands. And that's one thing, when bad things happen to me, I know that he is sovereign. There's nothing that comes to me that doesn't go through God's hand before it reaches me. So I know that whatever happens to me, it's part of his will. Maybe I'm supposed to learn something. Maybe I'm supposed to go through a hard time and be faithful and come out the other side as an example to other people. There's all kinds of reasons for things. So I've learned to just follow along, with everything with God, and just stay in his will and know that he's got a plan, and somehow the chaos or whatever's happening right now is going to be for good somewhere down the road. Exodus chapter 10, the plague of locusts. Then the Lord said to Pharaoh, Go to Pharaoh, for I have hardened his heart and the hearts of his officials, so that I may perform these miraculous signs of mine among them, that you may tell your children and grandchildren how I dealt harshly with the Egyptians, and how I performed my signs among them, and that you may know that I am the Lord. I love that part. So Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh and said to him, This is what the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, says. How long will you refuse to humble yourself before me? Let my people go, so that they may worship me. If you refuse to let them go, I will bring locusts into your country tomorrow. They will cover the face of the ground so it cannot be seen. Wow. They will devour what little you have left, not much left. After hail, including every tree that is growing in your fields, they will fill your houses and those of all your officials and all the Egyptians, something neither your fathers nor your forefathers have ever seen from the day they settled in this land till now. Then Moses turned and left Pharaoh. Pharaoh's officials said to him, How long will this man be a snare to us? Let the people go so they may worship the Lord your God. Do you not realize that Egypt is ruined? Then Moses and Aaron were brought to Pharaoh. Go worship the Lord your God, he said, but just who will be going? Moses answered, We will go with our young and old, our sons and daughters, with our flocks and herds, because we are to celebrate a festival to the Lord. Pharaoh said, The Lord be with you. If I let you go, along with your women and children, clearly you are bent on evil. No, have only the men go and worship the Lord, since that's what you have been asking for. Then Moses and Aaron were driven out of Pharaoh's presence. And the Lord said to Moses, Stretch out your hand over Egypt, so that locusts will swarm over the land and devour everything growing in the fields, everything left by the hail, which wasn't much. So Moses stretched out his staff over Egypt, and the Lord made an east wind blow across the land all that day and all that night. And by morning the wind had brought the locusts. They invaded all Egypt and settled down in every area in the country in great numbers. Never before has there been such a plague of locusts, nor will there ever be again. They covered all the ground until it was black. They devoured all that was left after the hail, everything growing in the fields and the fruit on the trees. Nothing green remained on tree or plant in all of the land of Egypt. Pharaoh quickly summoned Moses and Aaron and said, I have sinned against the Lord your God and against you. Now forgive my sin once more and pray to the Lord your God to take this deadly plague away from me. Moses then left Pharaoh and prayed to the Lord, and the Lord changed the wind to a very strong west wind, which caught up the locusts and carried them into the Red Sea. Not a locust was left anywhere in Egypt, but the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he would not let the Israelites go. Once again. Plague number 9, the plague of darkness. Then the Lord said to Moses, stretch out your hand toward the sky so that the darkness will spread over Egypt, darkness that can be felt. So Moses stretched out his hand toward the sky, and total darkness covered all Egypt for 3 days. No one could see anyone else or leave his place for 3 days. Yet all the Israelites had light in the places where they lived. God's providing. Then Pharaoh summoned Moses and said, go, worship the Lord. Even your women and children may go with you. Only leave your flocks and herds behind. But Moses said, you must allow us to have sacrifices and burnt offerings to present to the Lord our God. Our livestock, too, must go with us. Not a hoof is to be left behind. We have to use some of them in worshiping the Lord our God. And until we get there, we will not know what we are to use to worship the Lord. But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart. He was not willing to let them go. Pharaoh said to Moses, get out of my sight. Make sure you do not appear before me again. The day you see my face, you will die. Just as you say, Moses replied, I will never appear before you again. Pharaoh again made a half-hearted attempt to submit by letting the Israelite families go, but demanding that the flocks and herds stay behind. But Moses would not compromise. He knew partial obedience to God is disobedience. Oh, that's good. Let's read that one more time. Partial obedience to God is disobedience. Moses insisted that all the livestock had to go too, because the people would not know exactly what was needed until they arrived in the wilderness. Pharaoh was so filled with rage at this that he warned Moses not to appear before him again. For on the day you see my face, you will die. Moses agreed. I love that line about partial obedience is disobedience, and that's true. When God tells us to do something, we need to go and do it, right? Plague number 10. The plague of the firstborn. Now, the Lord had said to Moses, I will bring one more plague on Pharaoh and on Egypt. After that, he will let you go from here, and when he does, he will drive you out completely. Tell the people that men and women alike are to ask their neighbors for articles of silver and gold. The Lord made the Egyptians favorably disposed toward the people, and Moses himself was highly regarded in Egypt by Pharaoh's officials and by the people. So Moses said, this is what the Lord says. About midnight, I will go throughout Egypt. Every firstborn son in Egypt will die, from the firstborn son of Pharaoh, who sits on the throne, to the firstborn son of the slave girl, who is at her handmill, and all the firstborn of all the cattle as well. There will be loud wailing throughout Egypt, worse than there has ever been or ever will be again. But among the Israelites, not a dog will bark at any man or any animal. Then you will know that the Lord makes a distinction between Egypt and Israel. All these officials of yours will come to me, bowing down before me and saying, go, you and all the people who follow you. After that, I will leave. Then Moses, hot with anger, left Pharaoh. The Lord said to Moses, Pharaoh will refuse to listen to you, so that my wonders may be multiplied in Egypt. Moses and Aaron performed all the wonders before Pharaoh, but the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he would not let the Israelites go out of his country. The final curse against Pharaoh and Egypt would be a plague on the firstborn. The Lord would go throughout Egypt, and every firstborn male would die, whether human or livestock. The anguish in Egypt would be severe, but God again would make a distinction so that no harm would befall his people, Israel. As a result, the Egyptians would beg the Israelites to leave. When Moses had communicated this information to Pharaoh, he left his presence fiercely angry. An unarmed Hebrew issued an ultimatum to the most powerful ruler in the land and then stormed out of his palace. That is interesting, right? I mean, here's this Hebrew laying it down for Pharaoh, the king of the whole country, of all that area. But he wasn't going to let Pharaoh push him around. I mean, God is saying that this is what's going to happen. So he's like, you know what? You're going to lose your firstborn. And Pharaoh's heart was so hardened. And that's one thing I take away from here. I never want my heart to be that hardened against God, right? I mean, we want to be obedient to him and keep our hearts open to him. But Pharaoh had a very hard heart. The Passover. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron in Egypt, "This month is to be for you the first month of your year. Tell the whole community of Israel that on the 10th day of this month each man is to take a lamb for his family, one for each household. If any household is too small for a whole lamb, they must share one with their nearest neighbor, having taken into account the number of people there. You are to determine the amount of lamb needed in accordance with what each person will eat. The animals you choose must be 1-year-old males without defect," so perfect, "and you may take them from the sheep or the goats. Take care of them until the 14th day of the month, when all the people of the community of Israel must slaughter them at twilight. Then they are to take some of the blood and put it on the sides and tops of the door frames of the houses where they eat the lambs. That same night they are to eat the meat roasted over the fire, along with bitter herbs and bread made without yeast. Do not eat the meat raw or cooked in water, but roast it over the fire, head, legs, and inner parts. Do not leave any of it till morning. If some is left over, you must burn it. This is how you are to eat it, with your cloak tucked into your belt, your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand. Eat in haste. It is the Lord's Passover. On that same night I will pass through Egypt and strike down every firstborn, both men and animals, and I will bring judgment on all the gods of Egypt. I am the Lord. The blood will be a sign on your houses where you are, and when I see the blood, I will pass over you. No destructive plague will touch you when I strike Egypt. This is a day you are to commemorate. For the generations to come, you shall celebrate it as a festival to the Lord, a lasting ordinance. For 7 days you are to eat bread made without yeast. On the first day, remove the yeast from your houses. For whoever eats anything with yeast in it from the first day through the 7th day must be cut off from Israel. On that first day, hold a sacred assembly, and another one on the 7th day. Do no work at all on these days, except to prepare the food for everyone to eat. That is all you may do. Celebrate the feast of unleavened bread, because it was on this very day that I brought your divisions out of Egypt. Celebrate this day as a lasting ordinance for the generations to come. In the first month you are to eat bread made without yeast, from the evening of the 14th day until the evening of the 21st day. For 7 days no yeast is to be found in your houses, and whoever eats anything with yeast in it must be cut off from the community of Israel, whether he is an alien or native born. Eat nothing with yeast. Wherever you live, you must eat unleavened bread. Then Moses summoned all the elders of Israel and said to them, "Go at once and select the animals for your families and slaughter the Passover lamb. Take a bunch of hyssop, dip it in the blood in the basin, and put some of the blood on the top and on both sides of the door frame. Not one of you shall go out the door of his house until morning. When the Lord goes through the land to strike down the Egyptians, he will see the blood on the top and sides of the doorframe and will pass over that doorway, and he will not permit the destroyer to enter your houses or strike you down. Obey these instructions as a lasting ordinance for you and your descendants. Where you enter the land that the Lord will give you as he promised, observe this ceremony. And when your children ask you, 'What does this ceremony mean to you?' then tell them, 'It is the Passover sacrifice to the Lord, who passed over the houses of Israel in Egypt and spared our homes when he struck down the Egyptians.' Then the people bowed down in worship. The Israelites did just what the Lord commanded Moses and Aaron. At midnight, the Lord struck down all the firstborn in Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh, who sat on the throne, to the firstborn of the prisoner who was in the dungeon, and the firstborn of all the livestock as well. Pharaoh and all his officials and all the Egyptians got up during the night, and there was loud wailing in Egypt, for there was not a house without someone dead." The Exodus. During the night, Pharaoh summoned Moses and Aaron and said, "Up, leave my people, you and the Israelites. Go, worship the Lord as you have requested. Take your flocks and herds as you have said, and go, and also bless me." The Egyptians urged the people to hurry and leave the country, for otherwise, they said, "We will all die." So the people took their dough before the yeast was added and carried it on their shoulders in kneading troughs wrapped in clothing. The Israelites did as Moses instructed and asked the Egyptians for articles of silver and gold and clothing. The Lord made the Egyptians favorably disposed toward the people, and they gave them what they asked for, so they plundered the Egyptians. The Israelites journeyed from Ramses to Succoth. There were about 600,000 men on foot. besides women and children. 600,000 men, that's a lot of people. Many other people went with them as well. I have godly Egyptians, as well as large droves of livestock, both flocks and herds. With the dough that they had brought from Egypt, they baked cakes of unleavened bread. The dough was without yeast because they had been driven out of Egypt and did not have time to prepare food for themselves. Now the length of time the Israelite people lived in Egypt was 430 years. At the end of the 430 years, to the very day, all the Lord's divisions left Egypt. Because the Lord kept vigil that night to bring them all out of Egypt, on this night all the Israelites are to keep vigil to honor the Lord for generations to come. Passover restrictions. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "These are the regulations for Passover. No foreigner is to eat of it. Any slave you have bought may eat of it after you have circumcised him, but a temporary resident and a hired worker may not eat of it. It must be eaten inside the house. Take none of the meat outside the house. Do not break any of the bones. The whole community of Israel must celebrate it. An alien living among you who wants to celebrate the Lord's Passover must have all the males in his household circumcised. Then he may take part, like one born in the land. No uncircumcised male may eat of it. The same law applies to the native born and to the alien living among you." All the Israelites did just what the Lord had commanded Moses and Aaron. And on that very day, the Lord brought the Israelites out of Egypt by their divisions. The Israelites' 430 years there had finally come to an end, just as the Lord had promised Abraham that they would. Therefore, the Hebrews were to always remember this night in honor of the Lord. The verses provide further instructions regarding the Passover, outlining who may and may not partake of it. Note that, regarding the sacrifice, the Israelites were not permitted to break any of its bones. According to the New Testament, this was also a fulfillment in Jesus Christ, the true Passover lamb. When Jesus was crucified, the soldiers did not break his legs, which was a typical tactic used to hasten the death of a crucifixion victim. Because Jesus was already dead when they broke the legs of those killed alongside him, the Apostle John saw the action as a fulfillment of Exodus 12. So 10 times Moses is like, "Let my people go, let my people go." And Pharaoh's like, "No, no, no." And finally, with the death of a firstborn, he's just like, "Take them. Take all your people, all your animals, and get out of town." The other thing, I'm so proud of Aaron and Moses. I mean, they went again and again to stand before Pharaoh. I don't know if I would do that. If I had been rejected 8 and 9 times, I'm not sure I would go one more time, but they did. And this time, Pharaoh let the people go. How exciting. And then I love all the instructions about the Passover, very specific on, have to have a spotless lamb because Jesus was the spotless Lamb of God, and how they're to prepare it, and that foreigners and people who aren't circumcised can't partake. I mean, he's really making this a very special time. And Passover is still, celebrated even today. And I just love how God has all these things again back then pointing to Jesus. And I just love the whole idea of painting, the doorposts with the blood, and the angel of death just passed over them and went and got all the Egyptians. So God had a plan, and he can make sure that his people are safe while the enemy is not being, safe. And Egypt lost the firstborn of everybody. So I just hope today you're just encouraged to know that God has a plan, a very specific plan for his people who look to him and trust him, and that he's going to protect us like he protected the Israelites. So have a great day, trusting in his plan, knowing that he loves you and protects you. And we'll see you guys back here again tomorrow for more exciting words from God's love letter, which is the Bible. Have a great day. If you enjoyed this message today, I would appreciate a thumbs up. I would also love it if you would subscribe to my channel and pass it along to other friends who want to strengthen their faith in Jesus. I would love a comment on what you liked and also future topics you would like me to talk about. I would also love to answer any question you may have about how to put your faith in Jesus, the Christmas story, Easter story, anything at all. You can contact me through my website, which is nancyjoy2u. That's nancyjoy, the number 2, the letter U.com. You can also email me at nancyjoy2u@gmail.com. Hope to see you tomorrow.